one of the questions that both have been coming up in the Sangha, and as well as just being questions, I'm seeing that in the Sangha, which is this very simple teaching that most of us were aware of really at the very beginning of this self-recognition that we've all embarked on, and that is not my will but thy will. And I remember the first time I really ever heard that, and a teacher started to talk about it, and I just felt stark terror. And so that interested me, you know, what was so terrified? And of course, I mean, it's obvious, but there's different layers of that, is that the ego is afraid of losing control. And each ego has its own little theme around that. One ego will have a fear of being exposed in some way. Another ego will have a fear of really bad things will happen, and they won't be able to do anything about it. And so, you know, every ego has their own little sort of orientation around that pointing out of a very deep and profound truth. What started to happen here just through time was there was a realization, because awareness was coming into the foreground of the life rather than either unconscious or way in the background, or just periodic glimpses here and there. And when it started to come into the foreground, the realization started to take place that it was thy will was the wisdom and the unconditional love, and not only that, that would be in control, if you want to call it that, but that great beauty, that great current of life, that wisdom and love had always been in control, had always been moving life. But because the ego was so contracted and identified and believed that the actuality of this guidance and this great love and this truth and beauty was, it was contorted, you know, it was obscured. It couldn't actually be recognized and seen what this constant offering and guidance, this companion that has been leading the life actually forever, right? From forever. Before the beginning, it has been leading the life. There is no beginning and there is no end. So when one begins to really give over to that, and I'm speaking of, in some ways, there's a softening in the ego, because the ego and the mind is also starting to see what the reality is. It's starting to get tuned into that. So there's more of a softening around the ego structure. There's more of a willingness around the ego structure that then sort of lets that truth to be actually recognized, that thy will is, it's coming from truth and beauty, from wisdom itself. So the sense is of the fear of letting the ego relax and open up, so the great beauty and guidance can shine through unhindered. You go, well, let's see, the ego is afraid, and it's into control, and it's into projection, and it's into blame, and it's into, you know, guilt and this whole thing. And that should run the life? Or you look at the reality of what has always been directing the life. It's just simply been obscured in most cases, and that's the source of truth and love itself. So in a certain kind of way, it starts to inform itself of a letting go, of a sense of the ego trying to control and grasp, and kind of an open, relaxing availability to let what has always been, and one starts to truly see the great, astonishing kindness and beauty and guidance that's available. So in some ways, it kind of just informs itself. In another way, and I'm seeing this in the Sangha really quite a bit now, is the sense of emptying out, letting thy will begin to so be prevalent in your life, in the life, that your favorite little treasures that you try to hold back, the things that you really love about yourself or love about your life, or all of those kind of precious identities. And equally it can be, though this is quite unconscious, it can also try to hold back your deepest, most painful roots of all conditioning. It's just too painful, don't go there. You know, I've spent a whole lifetime, maybe many lifetimes, trying to hold that back and protect that. So it's sort of interesting how it's both that we try to sort of hold back from the radiance, the truth, the beauty to shine through. And there's a moment, and I'd say it is like a moment, that there just has to be an unhooking from it all, from your most treasured, little treasures you hold back, and also your greatest shames and secrets and most painful conditioning. And it's just like, okay, I let it all go. I don't know what it'll look like. I don't know who I will be. I don't know how my life is going to express itself, but yes. And then again, trusting this wisdom and guidance to reveal that, to unfold that. And in my own experience, that absolutely happens. There's this unfathomably wise and totally unique guidance for you that then is revealed moment by moment by moment. And then not my will, but thy will is this greatest joy and this greatest, most wonderful, precious way of living one's life. But we just have to go through the process. But my encouragement is to really see what's happening, to really be available to what's happening, and it will lead this life perfectly for you. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous unfolding and revealing. Trust it. Trust it. That